Their magic is art, delivered from many of its human limitation. J.R. Tolkien, Silmarillion.
Well, I thought it was a good quote.
It was. I like it.
Talking
because
about,
that's what this is like kind of loosely based on.
It actually isn't, because it can't be, because they didn't get the rights to it. But I like
That's true.
that if we choose to think about
what did they get the rights to?
The appendices and the Lord of the Rings, essentially.
Got it.
Not to remake the Lord of the Rings, but they got the rights to the appendices and the characters, essentially. So there's some things that have crossover in the Silmarillion, but I think then like maybe might be different or stuff. So they couldn't do Silmarillion stories.
Now, it's been announced. I don't know if it'll happen because, David Zaslav is, the king of cuts over at HBO and Warner's and stuff. But I heard it loosely announced that Harry Potter is being remade into 7 seasons of television. Would you rather have seen Rings of Power be the Lord of the Rings remade into 3 seasons of television?
Oh, yeah. No.
No?
I don't think so. Because I don't need it.
It's going to happen. That's the thing. Like, we have to admit that it's going to happen eventually. I'm going to say by 2030, it will at least be announced that Lord of the Rings is being remade.
I don't think you're wrong. I don't... okay, so I was talking to my dad about Dune, and I knew the answer, or I actually was afraid if he had watched it, what his opinion of the new movie was going to be. And he said he watched a couple minutes of it, and it just wasn't his Dune. It wasn't what he pictured it to be, and he turned it off. And I'm named after Lady Jessica. This is that man's story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just wasn't for him. So in the event that happens, I don't know that maybe I'll
say that in the first few minutes of the first one?
Yeah, of the new Dune. Yeah.
How could you get that in the first few minutes?
He just didn't want it.
I'm not trying to hate on this man. He just didn't want it?
He just didn't want it. It wasn't... I did think it was like a little close-minded of him, but at the same time, Kyle MacLachlan is his Paul,
He should get a better Paul.
I love him as Paul, though. I love Kyle MacLachlan.
I like Kyle MacLachlan, and he's even really good in the Fallout show that just came out.
Oh, that's right. He's in it.
He looks so good, by the way. Like, because he even did a TikTok with like a funny, that sound from, I think it's like Knocked Up, where she's like, am I hotter than all these little young bitches at the club or whatever? And he looks great. I don't know who styled him and did his hair, but he was killing it at the red carpet premiere of Fallout.
Oh, and he's been killing it on TikTok. He's been doing some crazy Twin Peaks stuff. I think he also had like a big role in Sex and the City that I just started watching. Like
Oh, does he? Okay.
Yes, huge. And he is a yuppie, and he's insufferable.
He looks like a New York yuppie.
Yes.
Like that's probably the coolest thing, because he is like your standard kind of like Chris Pine looking guy from, the 80s and stuff like that. But he got hitched up with David Lynch, which is so dope. So it's just like, yeah, I'm your standard Hollywood looking actor, but I'm also working with the weirdest, most interesting director on the planet. So I get and just prove that I've got the chops, and he did. So like, what a cool thing, just be like, De Niro had Scorsese, and so does Leo and stuff like that. And Kyle MacLachlan was David Lynch's guy. Like, he's done a lot of David Lynch stuff. And
yeah. Well, because the thing is like he in the late 2000s and early 2000s, like Sex and the City era, he looks like a fucking dork. He really does. And I think he's come into his own now as like a 60-something man. I think he's like come back to like, hey, what's up? Like, he's like Bruce Campbell level of like
he's definitely in his Silver Fox era.
Yes. Yeah. Like, he basically needed another glow up, and he got it. And he did? And we're just basking in the glory of this Kyle MacLachlan. But he was my Paul too. But I wanted to hate Timothy. And I love him. I do. And I think he's great as Paul. I really do.
He's really good.
He really is. He is. And it works for me. Even Rebecca Ferguson, despite my issues with her, what they did to Jessica, even though I understand why they did what they did with Jessica, she's hot and great. She's great. I still have issues. I take umbrage with Duncan Idaho. Anyway, I guess that's why I wanted to open up with that quote, because that quote actually is specifically about elves, but we
I
have
figured.
limitations, and we have. I want to look at our review of Rings of Power as an artistic take, and I really do give them credit for not trying to remake in total the Lord of the Rings show, or make it the Lord of the Rings show, or let's try to remake the movies. They tried to tell a fresh story, and I don't think they're unsuccessful. Granted, we haven't seen the full scope of what this show is attempting to do. So I just wanted to look at it through that lens.
I think that's tough, is that I don't know. I understand that, like, I think they should have done some movies. I honestly think that if they would have done a Rings of Power movie and just be like, this is a new trilogy, guys. It's gonna come straight to VOD. And so, like, I wonder how that would have worked with, like, there's not, or, a 3 episode, what BBC does, where, I remember being confused the first time I watched the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock. And I was like, oh, these are each 90 minutes long and there's only 3 episodes? Oh, okay. And so you just get 3 movies in a season of television.
Sure.
And so doing something like that, week to week, or something like this big 3-week event of just, hey, you're going to get a lot here, but everyone knows that coming into Middle Earth stuff, where, it's so funny when the MCU movie Eternals came out, like, the word dense has never been used more in every single tweet review and everything. Like, well, it's really dense. It's like, it's really not. Like, and people said that about Dune as well. And I'm sure the books for sure are. I finally need to start those. But, like, the way Denis explained them, and that's why, I remember watching the David Lynch one where what's her name comes on screen. Is it Princess Aurelion comes on screen at the very beginning, and it's just like, here's everything you need to know about Dune, and then fades away. Then comes back and explains more. I was like, oh God, there's a lot here.
There really is. She does the Star Wars crawl, basically.
She does the Star Wars crawl, and I feel like that's probably the studio freaking out and being like, okay, people aren't gonna know, but it's just, Denis did such a good job, at least for me, knowing nothing about the Dune universe. Because I saw the David Lynch Dune after the Denis one. I was like, I really want to see this, but I don't know how much it's going to give away. So, knowing literally nothing about the Dune universe, the Duneverse, as I like to call it. The Duneverse.
Oh, man. I just need to take a minute to appreciate that. Moving on.
Anytime. But I was never confused. I was like, does it get probably more complicated? Absolutely. And, maybe I could get lost, but just, Game of Thrones did a great job of that too. And so it's just like, we're in an era where people are ready for some pretty high concept stuff and a lot of information if it's explained well. And so totally. I think maybe the 3 movies would have done better, or been more concise with their storytelling and gotten through a lot of the, the Harfoot slog and stuff like that. And I don't know, it feels like they're trying to make all the stories connect somehow, but it's going to take a while. So we feel like we're spinning our wheels that the old hag wants to take away with Harfoots, but like, they're just like, just wait. The stranger is Gandalf or Saruman, whoever. He's gonna come into contact with Galadriel eventually.
Right.
Like, eventually they're gonna, meet up, or he's gonna run into Halbrand at Rune or something. I don't know.
Right.
But it is a longer journey, and it is tough to sustain that with these 8-episode seasons while not kind of giving us any kind of ending with this first season. Like, sure. Fallout was. Have you watched Fallout yet?
I have not, no.
I don't want to spoil it because it's still semi recent.
Sure.
But there's definitely, like, the Fallout lore I've heard is crazy. But there's like Kyle MacLachlan gets kidnapped at the beginning of the show.
Got it.
And the main character is like, I'm going to leave the vault. I'm going to go get my dad. That storyline is resolved at the end of the show. I won't say how, I don't say what happens, but that storyline is resolved. And then there's like, whoa, there's so much more to this world that you never would have guessed. It's like, oh, that's really cool. I got what I got in the pilot episode. That's done. Now we move on. We didn't get that in this show.
So the entire time you're talking, I can't help but agree with you, but I also can't get out of my mind that while this, yes, I mean, you really screwed me up there. My whole paradigm just shifted.
Text your dad right now.
I actually might have to pause. But that when this show was being pitched, we're in the era of no one's making movies. It's unless you're Denis or something like that, or you can convince a theater, a studio to take that kind of on. So we actually, I don't know this. Maybe someone in the world knows. Maybe this was pitched as a movie, and they said, "Nope, we're looking for series. Make this into a series." I just think that the limitation of this era is everything is special series, everything is limited run, everything is TV. So I think they tried to shoehorn this story into that. Now, I think if they had gotten the Silmarillion, it could have been interesting, the tales of Lord of the Rings, right? Like let's just see. I would watch a whole season of Baron and Luthien. That's all when you know that is like the model for Aragorn and Arwen, you'd want to watch that. And it could introduce you to characters, you know?
Me and Ulrich and Bert Jennings were playing Helldivers the other day, and we got to talking about this. Did we talk about the new movie that was announced?
I feel like we should dedicate an episode to that rather than talk about it, but it's up to you.
No, but it's just like the idea that like Star Wars has done this and Marvel has done this with their What If series. Like Marvel has What If, these kind of one-shot episodes that might connect down the road, but we'll see. It's like, oh, what if Peggy Carter was Captain Britain instead of Captain America? Stuff like that. And some were really fun. Some didn't work, but that's okay. And then Star Wars had Star Wars Visions, where they hired all these different anime studios to make Star Wars stories that like have nothing to do with the Skywalkers or anything. They're just really cool one-shot stories.
Oh, that's cool.
And then there's like on Netflix, there's like Love, Death, and Robots, just like sci-fi one-shot. Yeah, like Black Mirror and stuff. Would you want that with the Silmarillion? Just like not maybe a cohesive story, but just like here's a Baron Luthien episode. Here's a Morgoth, not Shelob, Ungoliant episode. Here, like just a little bit of introduction, and then just giving like you bought the appendices. Okay, start doing the appendices like that. Just do these little short stories with that. And maybe that was pitched as well. We don't know what happened behind closed doors, but it's just like the cohesive story for this one. We're getting, I just saw on Twitter today, we're getting the teaser trailer tomorrow. So we'll talk about that.
Are you kidding? Whoa.
We're getting the first teaser trailer. I was going to text you, but I saw it like right when I woke up. So I wasn't in my right mind yet. So we're getting a teaser trailer literally 24 hours from the recording of this show. So we will definitely talk about that next week in our Q&A episode. But so we're going to see what this next season's going to be. And, we're going to be there giving you guys the hot goss every week. But it's just like, I don't know, that for me, and I understand you're totally right with everything needs to be shows. Unless you're literally Christopher Nolan or have some kind of IP next year thing, or your budget is a indie horror movie, which will make its budget back in the opening weekend no matter what. You're just not getting money. And it's so unfortunate. I can't remember who said it at the Oscars, where it was just like, let's have less $100 million movies and make $10 million movies, or 5 $20 million movies. And I listen to so many movie podcasts where that was the thing. Like, you make an adult thriller for $30 million, you get one big star, maybe a cast of character actors that people like, hey, I know that guy from that one thing. And then if it makes $50 million, you're in the clear. Like, you don't need not everything needs to be a blockbuster.
Right.
And I'm not like creating, nuclear fission by saying this. Everyone, like even the most layman of moviegoers that just like why was Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Fleabag $350 million? Like, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was decently fun. I love Harrison Ford. I love Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I thought it was a fun story. Why that movie was $350 million, I do not know. Like, that was a fool's errand. It was like, in no way, shape, or form was Indiana Jones ever going to be Barbie or, Avengers Endgame or something like that. I don't know what they were thinking with that budget. Because you can make a good Indiana Jones movie for $100 million. Because, I mean, outside of Harrison Ford, like,
a lot of that went to making him look younger, though, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that opening scene was... He looked good, but it's just it was just like the strange. I was just more confused where, if I was on that side of YouTube, I would have made a week's worth of videos like, "Oh, Disney, what are you doing with your money?" It's just like they keep feeding the trolls with this kind of stuff because it's right there. Like, what are you doing? What are you thinking with this money? Where I know, like, when The Rock released he was like, guys, I'm going to release these secret financial documents to show that Black Adam is eventually going to make money because it flopped so hard. And it's true. Movies very rarely actually lose money with like sponsorships and, VOD sales and all these things. Like, eventually they're going to make money. So The Rock isn't wrong, but it's just like, you guys can help yourself by not blowing these budgets up to ridiculous proportions.
Well, I hate to refer to movies and TV as content, but I do for the greater point I'm trying to make. Are we just in content fatigue that even if this was a movie, we might not have been interested in it? Because who doesn't love Indiana Jones? Who wouldn't want to see it actually good Indiana Jones today? I didn't care. The only movie that's in theaters right now that I even might go see is Fall Guy, and I don't care. And so, like, is there just too many options? Are there too many options in general that they're like just trying to grab our attention for 2 seconds? I guess I'm not 100% sure the point I'm trying to make, except for if you gave me this Lord of the Rings as a movie, I think it would have gotten torn apart even worse because it's not Cate Blanchett.
Direct to streamer. Like, they make it an Amazon Prime exclusive. But then it feels like a
cheap movie. Then it feels like a B movie.
But I mean, like, they did it, like, I think they could have done a simultaneous release because Amazon does produce like theater movies. And so, but you're right there are too many options now. During COVID, I understand the way they did things, but the way that HBO or, Warner, I keep saying HBO, Warner Brothers overreacted, being like, we're day and date with everything we're releasing. Dune coming out in November, you can watch it at home immediately.
Right.
Disney Plus, Pixar, anything Pixar, home immediately. So, when their newest movie comes out, like, parents are just going to be like, oh, sorry, I have 2 kids and I don't have AMC A-list. That's $100 on a weekend, not including snacks. At least here in LA.
Right.
Because it's like $17-18 a ticket.
Oh, yeah.
Family of 4, that's like $80. Plus, if you want to get popcorn, which you're going to have to, that's over $100 for a movie theater. You're going to tell the kids, we'll wait a month because I'm spending $7.99 on Disney Plus, and we'll watch Frozen 2 for the 90th time until, what is it called? Wish? Until Wish is out on Disney Plus within a month. Because these movies I always talk about the amorphous time when we were kids, me and Jessica, of like, oh, it's not in theaters? I guess it's just in the ether until you see it on a Blockbuster shelf one day. Granted, there was definitely movie news and when it was coming out, but I didn't follow it. So just one day, Terminator 2 was just on the shelf. So yay, we get to rent it now. And like, those days are gone.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Like, the fact that Godzilla, I was so surprised because I went home to see my family like a few weeks ago. It was after the Oscars, and I convinced my parents, like, oh, let's watch Godzilla -1. They don't watch, they watch foreign films every once in a while, but, convincing them to watch a Japanese Godzilla movie, I was like, guys, I promise, it's so good. There's action, there's drama, it's so good, and it just won some Oscars, and it wasn't there. I was like, oh, I guess because it's like a Japanese film, it's gonna take more time to come out on VOD because it's long gone from theaters. And I was like, I'm so surprised. Like, you could already pre-order the Godzilla Kong Empire movie. That was still in theaters, but the Japanese produced -1, you couldn't. It wasn't on VOD yet.
I wonder what the issue is. Not issue, like maybe it's
Yeah,
because it was so successful. Kind of like I couldn't wait for Barbie to be free on streaming. I didn't see it in theaters. I'm the one
yeah,
person who didn't. And I paid to watch it on Amazon or something. Like I think I bought it, to be fair. I was like, I want this. I don't ever want to not have it if I'm going to
yeah.
spend this money. But like um I I think that the more successful a movie is, the less available it becomes.
Yeah.
That is what happens.
Yeah, like if it's and it's so funny. I can't remember what movie it was. It might have been like Wes Anderson's last movie where like they put it on VOD while it was still in theaters, and it's like it made $1 million last weekend. Like, let these things like they want to get to VOD so fast that they shoot themselves in the foot sometimes. And so you're totally right. I don't know if a Lord of the Rings movie in theaters would work. Just and I feel like that's why Warner Brothers is saying like, we're gonna make a Harry Potter series. That way we have guaranteed viewership there, rather than because you know what was it? It was the Divergent series. They didn't even get to make their last
That's
movie.
exactly right. And
They were just
also,
like, oh well, we're gonna cut down the budget. Okay, it's gonna be a made for TV movie. Oh, it's gonna be nothing. It's gone. Like
yeah.
they didn't even get to finish. Like, I think was it the third or the fourth movie?
I don't know if it was. Yeah, because we were right at the end of the Hunger Games. That was the era, and they did this with Harry
Yeah, the
Potter
Wyatt.
too. Well, when
Yeah.
they were doing, let's split up the last one into 2 movies. You know, like that was egregious to me. Just round out the story. You know,
You know what sucks is that I agree that definitely money hungry, but everyone hates Deathly Hallows Part 1. As a big time book person, that was the only one I actually liked. 'Cause I was like, oh, this one is taking its time and like filling everything
it actually
in.
tells the story.
And I realized nothing happens, but that's what happens in the book. So I was like, I kind of like this. This is great.
Well, that's a very fresh perspective. But I think that it sucked when they did it with Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Stop. Just tell the third, you know. And so it sounds like Divergent's plan was probably to do that. And the interest was just not there. And, you
Yeah.
know, this is why I don't think a movie, whether it's VOD or whatever, works. Because the movies didn't work for the Harry Potter Ned, what's it called? That series is.
That was just a mess of everything.
And so you can't sell people on, hey, here's a bunch of Lord of the Rings stuff you have no idea about. You know what I mean? Or like, hey, let's do the prequels. I don't know. I just think that the audience doesn't want to work that. I don't know. But at the same time, to go back to your earlier point, we 100%, you could follow Dune and had never seen it before. But also, you cared too. Because the budget for the advertising and the studio pushing it back, the external drama surrounding the story made it fascinating. It really did.
Yeah. It amazingly cut trailer as well. I remember watching the trailer and be like, oh, I get this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm there.
Wow.
Like, I didn't understand. I remember being like, you know, I thought the House Atreides was going to rescue the Harkonnen. Not the Harkonnen, but the Fremen from the Harkonnen.
Oh, sure.
And so, like, it kind of made it seem like that. But even when the movie started, I was like, oh, this isn't what I expected, but I'm there. Like, Zendaya's opening, monologue was like, I compared it plenty of times to Cate Blanchett's opening monologue to Lord of the Rings. I was like, I'm here.
Yeah.
This is how you do exposition. Like, I am not confused at all. And I had something and I lost it. Darn. But just like, it's so, Barbie. Everybody was so, I don't want to say surprised because the marketing and Barbenheimer was there, but it's just like, I don't think anyone expected Barbie to be as big as it was.
Sure.
Like, I know, like, everyone, when Greta Gerwig signed on, they're like, that's a good director. When Margot Robbie signed on, to produce and everything, she's like, that's literally Barbie. So that's perfect. And then when Ryan Gosling saw it on, everyone's like, what? I mean, cool. He's funny. He's talented, but okay. And then when like the set photos came out, I followed this pretty closely. And so it was just
they ran out of pink. Like
literally there's no pink paint in the world, which is the craziest thing ever.
It's such a the meta of it is fun to follow.
And so, but just like, you just don't know what's going to succeed nowadays with shows or movies or anything. And so, the fact that we're talking about an Amazon Prime show that released week to week, they dumped Fallout. They're like, binge watch this, whatever. And it's their most successful show ever.
Right.
It's like their biggest show, and they did not expect that. And I'm going to be very surprised that, 2 years later, whenever the next season comes out, if it's not like, here's the first 2 episodes, the rest are going to be week to week. Because there's some pretty big cliffhangers in this show that would have very much benefited from a week-long worth of online discourse.
Yeah. Or did they know that it was so good that people were just going to want it and get frustrated? Like, here's the thing.
I never know. What do you prefer? Because I like, X-Men 97 is coming out, and no one expected really for like, oh, this is some fun nostalgia from like our childhood of like the X-Men cartoons. And it's just throwing haymakers every single week. And I don't think anyone was ready for it. And so there was an episode that lit the internet on fire.
Wow.
And it was just a week's worth of like, what is going to happen after this? It was crazy. And so I've binged plenty of shows. So, I remember the first Stranger Things season. I was like, I'm staying up all night and I'm watching this.
Yes,
this is really good.
Totally.
But just like, we reverted back where it's just like, I like waiting a week sometimes. It's tough. I watch anime, and it's tough where you wait a week for 21 minutes of content.
That's the worst when it's a short show.
Yeah. But, hour-long Game of Thrones every Sunday night that it would, like, crash the HBO app because everyone was trying to access it immediately. Like, it was wild. It was good.
Oh, sure. I think I remember that issue with girls. I was on it. I was on 11 p.m. Yeah, I do remember that. So here's what I think. I think they thought they had something better than what they actually had. I think they thought they had a more interesting story than what they had. I think they thought we would give a fucking flying fuck who Halbrand was. And we kind of were interested. And if they...
We're only interested in hindsight that he is who he is. Like...
So I think that the failure... I don't... Let's put it this way. If they had released it all up front, it would have been a slog. We would have been like, God, you want me to watch the next episode? Why? You know what I mean? Because there's so much space in this series, which I do like if it's done well. And like you said, if we're actually getting sweeping New Zealand shots or something, and we're just not. I don't know what. I just can't put my finger on what the actual failure of this series was, because it hasn't fully failed, but it
hasn't.
But there is something that's not gelling totally.
And that's what's frustrating is that, so many of our episodes were like, oh, they zigged when they should have zagged, or, this character should have done this instead of this one. So it's just like, they're not completely off base with a lot of like what they tried to do, but it is just frustrating when, and I don't want to say it's a lose-lose, because if you make something good, people will like it, obviously.
Sure.
People will digest it. People will talk about it. People will make full podcasts about it and full channels and, dedicate their lives to it. But it is tough following possibly the greatest trilogy of all time, and then following that, maybe a flawed trilogy, but an incredibly successful one. As much as, we had notes for The Hobbit, they don't give a shit. They made $1 billion every year.
Exactly right. Wow. Wow. You can't say that about the Harry Potter series after the movies.
No, yeah. Like after, the Fantastic Beasts series.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, God.
Can't say the same for that.
No,
I
like
think
you can have notes for that creatively and financially. You cannot have notes for The Hobbit financially. We're like, yeah,
Wow.
whatever, cool. Let me go cash this check.
What? Let me go play it on HBO all day, fucking long. If on 7 different channels.
Yeah,
dude, and it created work for every single person that dubbed it. Damn, you're so right about that. So let me ask you this. Let me flip it. What did the series do right?
The series got a lot of the casting correct. For Galadriel, perfect. I'm waiting to see about Halbrand. I know you're more sold on him than me. I'm waiting to see that now he's evil. Now we get to see, because there's some really good moments, there's, for me, it's a really good moment of like, him in the jail cell with
Sure.
like, oh, you mentioned her dad and she freaked out.
Sure.
Great moment. That's good. Everything else, I was just kind of like, you're just a dude. You're just a dude that wants to be a blacksmith, and I'm not getting any Dark Lord energy from you, like at all.
Sure.
It sucks that we lost Adar, because that was also a great actor.
Yeah, it's actually upsetting every time I think about it.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
Arondir and Bronwyn, I think, are very well cast. Elrond, I think, was well cast.
You didn't think that when we started out.
I think he's a good actor. He's not Hugo Weaving, and I have to let that go.
You do, yeah, totally.
One of my favorite bands, Dance Gavin Dance, they get a new lead singer. They've had like 3 different lead singers. So sometimes I'm like, I have to forget the other albums. They are what they are. It's the same name, but it's a different band now because the lead singer makes that big
So
of
you
a
still
difference
like
for me.
them even though there's new lead singers?
There's the most recent lead singer that literally just left the band, so they're getting another new one. It's like a Spinal Tap. It's not great. But no, I still like a lot of their music. They still, I saw them in concert recently, and they're still good.
Wow.
But just like, I have to. It just sucks because Morfydd Clark is so great, and she is like basically Cate Blanchett, as close as you can get to a 30-year-old Cate Blanchett. You can't find those often.
No.
You can't find a 30-year-old Cate Blanchett
fair
often.
Point.
And I can't name, it would have to be someone unknown, because I can't name anyone famous that could fill those
Anya
shoes.
Taylor-Joy, unfortunately. I don't like her, and it's purely out of jealousy, I'm sure, but I think she could do it. You know who?
She's too big. She's just too famous.
That woman, that young woman that they put in all the Netflix series. She was in the Shonda Rhimes one. She was like becoming Anna. She was in the Jason Bateman show.
Julia Garner?
Is that what her name is?
I think so.
They're trying to make her like an A-list star. She could have done that. I think she could have been. Okay, all right. I don't know.
I will say, like, her. I've seen the scene. I need to watch the Jason Bateman show. She's very good. I can't get, like, I know she sounds like becoming Anna. I know she sounds like that character, but like, I remember watching the first episode of that, and I was like, is she gonna talk like this the whole time? And it's like, that is how that person sounds, so I can't. It's not a bad job. It's just, it's hard to take seriously.
Gotcha, totally.
I said the same thing about Natalie Portman when she did the Jackie movie. Because I'd never really heard Jackie Kennedy.
Oh,
yeah, she was doing that voice, and I've grown up with Natalie Portman literally since The Professional. Like, we're almost the same age, and so I was like, this is so strange. And I literally, before I did my review, I came home and I watched the White House tour with Jackie Kennedy, and that's her.
Yeah.
I was like, oh. So she's perfect. Like,
Yeah.
there's no notes, and she got nominated for an Oscar. So I was very wrong.
But it's not off-putting.
It's not off-putting. But Anya Taylor-Joy is a good choice. I think it's kind of like the Dune thing, though. And when she pops up in Dune 2, I was just like, oh, you were in this movie. Like, I saw her on the red carpet, but I'd kind of like put it out of my mind because I was like so into the movie. And so I was like, oh, hey, Anya.
Yeah, yeah.
Great actor. I love her in The Menu. I'm so excited for Mad Max. Like, just everything she does is just pure cinema. But just like, if it was her and everybody else, I'd be like, oh, it's the Anya Taylor-Joy show.
Totally. Which it really was the Galadriel's show, though, too.
It was, yeah.
And honestly, I don't know that I would have watched it in the same way. But I'm totally straying from the point. You're totally right that I really enjoyed Morpeth. I thought she did a great job, and I think she had gigantic shoes to fill, and no one was kind to her about it. You know what I mean?
No, and that's the thing. There's no grace given, and like people were writing the show off before it even started. Now, granted, I don't know how much favor they did themselves with the structuring of this season, and because I remember, like what you said, where if this was a binge, you don't know if you'd continue it or how slow it would be. Because like they did the 3 episodes, and I remember talking to friends and being like, the 3 episodes weren't anything to grab me.
Wasn't it only 2? Was it the first 2, I think? And it was a slog.
It was. And I remember watching it because like my friend, got it early because he's like a big reviewer, so he got it early and he was like, I'll keep watching because it's Lord of the Rings, but watching the first 2 episodes, there wasn't like, when WandaVision came out, they did the first 2 episodes, and I understood why. Because the first episode, you're getting used to like where, they're in the television era. Like, okay, but there was no like hook.
Yes.
And in the end of the second episode, you're like, oh, okay, that's what we're doing here. Got it. And I was like, okay, that's why they did the first 2 episodes, to grab you.
Yeah.
And that's what a pilot needs to do. And I know that the pilot episode is kind of like a lost art nowadays because usually shows just get greenlit for a season. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it still happens with like ABC and stuff like that, where they make a pilot and then they show the pilot and then they're like, oh yeah, we like this. We'll do that.
Oh, I think that's the majority of how most things get made still.
Well, at least like with streamers, I know it's just like full seasons.
Really?
Like I'm 95%
No,
sure.
you're probably right. I'm not trying to challenge you. I think definitely when you're looking at it, certainly depends on who, right? Like
they might maybe they reshoot the pilot because like you can always like you watch Scrubs. The hospital they're in for Scrubs is like this broken down building, and they don't have the budget. And then when they come back for the first episode, quote unquote, they're like in the brand new hospital that you can go visit. It's like somewhere in the valley
Hills or something like that.
Yeah.
But like if it's Ted, you're just giving Seth MacFarlane
exactly
the reins to go make the episodes. Which listen to Talking Ted over on the Roddenberry podcast. If you
absolutely, I need to watch that show because every clip I've seen it's like that sound of the you got to try this crab is like going viral and stuff like that. And so I need to.
We got to talk to her. She's fantastic.
I bet she sounds so great.
And her, I did the thing you hate when interviewers do this, like, hey, did you know you went viral? And I even prefaced it to her. I said that her name is Alana Eubach and she is in Waiting, and her wash the fucking dishes and shut the fuck up.
That's her?
Yes.
Oh my god, that's crazy.
I know. And actually when we talked to her, she shared that she almost didn't get cast because she plays badass women so many times, and the mom is nice and is almost a pushover, and she kills it, by the way. But I said to her, I don't like it when interviews do this. My friend hates it when people do this, but I had to let you know you're having a resurgence on TikTok. She goes, I know, my nephew told me.
I love it. I would have never guessed. That's so cool. Waiting's one of my favorite, like, especially now, like being in the service industry, it's totally. Like the movie doesn't hold up totally well, but I don't care. But everything about the service industry in that movie is like 100% spot on. And she's so funny. And I'd always wonder because like you kind of recognize everybody from that movie.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen her in so long, so it's so
so
great.
She's been doing so much, and I ended up having like I spun out because she's Mama Imelda in Coco, and she kind of did the voice before. I know my brain was like, okay, I love
so
you,
crazy.
You're great. Anyway, so go over to Roddenberry podcast and check out that series. But
just like the whole point I was trying to make is like the pilot needs to grip you, and if they decided at I don't know when in the streamer. Like they decided we're going to release the first 2 episodes. They needed to do something in the first 2 episodes that grabbed you? Like Galadriel jumping off the boat, I guess a little bit, but she's just afloat the whole next episode. And so like like does she wash up against the Númenórean boat at the end of the second one, I think is what happens.
At the end of the second one, there's a shadow over them, and we come to find out in the third one it's a Lynn deal.
And so it's like that's not gripping. Like,
so they,
especially if we're gonna call it the Galadriel show, like,
right,
do something there.
I think they really tried to. They tried to keep so much of Galadriel's secret so that by the time she mentioned she had a husband, we go, wait, but she's been flirting with. I think they really wanted us to think that there was a love connection between her and Halbrand. And actually, it's sort of a failure because we don't see enough of what her brother went through and her relationship to her brother. And we don't see what she lost and why she cares to find Sauron so much.
Yeah, it's big. It's big. I told you I cared about my brother, so you guys need to care as much as I did. It's like, give us, like, there's so much that happens. You cannot undersell, and we've talked about this so much, and I'm like beating a dead horse when it comes to like how good that exposition by Cate Blanchett is in the beginning, and how like literally you see it in the Hobbit movies where that entrance by Bilbo is almost twice as long and doesn't accomplish nearly as much when it's a much smaller story too. Like, you're just talking about the dwarves and Erebor and Smaug. Somehow it's longer than the history of the fucking earth and the greatest Dark Lord it's ever seen. Like,
wow.
Crazy. And so it's like, give us the war with Sauron in the first episode. You want to fucking hook people? Give us, quote unquote, Battle of the Last Alliance with Sauron and why he disappeared, and that someone, quote, like, defeated him, and then like getting to know her brother and all the battles they fought together and like the bond that they forged. Like, it's a great scene with, like, the origami floating down the river and like having like, oh, well, sometimes you have to touch the shadow to realize what the light is and stuff that he says. Like, that's a great moment. Also, you have this gorgeous, really good actor who you should have probably cast as Elrond as her brother. Use him more than what you used him because you misused him.
Well, I think we did talk so much about the series throughout all episodes that we've taken the time to talk about. I just went in circles. What do you want for season 2? And it's interesting that I would almost say we should do a trailer reaction, but if it's just a teaser, that means it's only 30 seconds, right? It's like,
I think it'll be 2 minutes, but we can. I'll make notes. I'll break it down.
I think we should watch it. We should do a live reaction. I think we should. But what we don't have the benefit of imagining. We kind of know some from the news, but like moving forward, and not just season 2, but the rest of the seasons. What do you think this show has to do or accomplish in order to actually be good?
I think they need to push the pedal to the metal. Now is the time to do it. You can't. You got 8 episodes. You gotta grab people. You gotta make people wonder why they doubted this first season, and just be like, oh, you know what? You did plant those seeds. That was good. You did bring this up right here. So let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to let people know that, of like, you got to reassure people like, hey, there is content out there everywhere you go. Not even movies or television shows. You could just be on your phone and just be endlessly scrolling because there's endless memes and videos and everything out there for you. But you chose to watch this for an hour a week. And you got to reward people for that. You got to bring them back week to week. My friend just did an episode of SVU. Mariska Hargitay is still killing it weekly, 20 years later.
Right.
Because weekly, they bring people back. Even if it's a one-off, like, guy assaulted a lady on the subway. Who is it? Oh, it's this guy it's definitely this guy, but we're going to spend 45 minutes talking about him. And Ice-T is going to make the best one-liner of like, hey, buddy, you're about to get railroaded because you assaulted someone on the subway. I don't know, something like that.
Writers,
I'm gonna tune.
Somebody get this boy a job.
You're taking the A train to Rikers, baby.
There is no train. They're just gonna.
I know, right? But it's just like they bring people back. You go there for a reason. And yes, you are telling a 5-season story, but so did Breaking Bad. Like 5 seasons. And like I remember I was watching, like I was catching up on Breaking Bad on Netflix. That was kind of the first thing I really watched on Netflix when I got it. And I was like, man, there's an episode where he goes to a hardware store 3 times. And you're like, what the hell is going on? But at the end of it, he sees other meth dealers and he goes, stay out of my territory. And that's all you needed is for Bryan Cranston, Malcolm in the Middle ass dad, from like, oh, do I need a 3-inch nail or a 4-inch screw? Let me go back to the hardware store because I got the wrong thing. And I literally was in the middle of the episode being like, this is the 3rd time he's been to this store. What is going on?
Jesus Christ.
But all you need is for him to drop into the Heisenberg voice of, like, stay out of my territory. And you're like, oh, okay. And that's all you needed. And so you got to give us those moments. Like, the word fan service is so,
It's ick. It's got a little bit of ick to it.
It is ick, but you got to give us some dopamine, man. You got to give us a reason to come back. Is it a fight scene? Maybe. Is it a great, it wasn't a fight scene in the finale, but the reveal, the dream sequence, the brother on the boat, like the last temptation of Christ, basically, with Galadriel and Halbrand, like, that's what I came here for. Durin and Elrond, the brotherhood and the friendship there, that's what I came for. Like, if you're not going to give us fighting goblins and fighting Balrogs, then give us some good character stuff. And we didn't get enough of either one of those.
We didn't get. Now, listen, I don't need to watch another toxic budding romance, but if we've been talking about Galadriel this whole time being adolescent, they missed the boat by not making leaning into the romance, and B, giving us like a couple red herrings, like, oh, he's gonna betray her right now, and then he shows up with the knife, giving it to her. He should have had the knife longer, right? Or what is he gonna do with that knife, or whatever? Or could he have traded that? We just need to see him be nefarious and a little bit more meddling, and we needed to see her be turned on by it. And you're totally right. We would have. Listen, I've never seen Game of Thrones. I watched the first episode. It didn't hook me. Maybe if I tried again, I may want to. I want to watch House of the Dragons because Matt Smith wanting that his niece is hot. It's hot to me. And it's gross.
Also,
and
she could have played Galadriel. I meant to mention that the Targaryen queen. I can't think of what that actress's name is.
The adult one? The adult?
Yes.
Got it. Okay. But then when I found out that they time jumped, I'm like, well, what are we doing here, bros?
But that is such a good thing where you're like really into the young versions of like the 2 upcoming queens and like their friendship and what's going on there. And then when you time jump, it's like, oh, I kind of like the younger versions, but then you grab people back. You're like, no, don't worry.
Here's why.
You're gonna like these 2 as well.
Wow.
And you do.
Because they're telling good stories and they have interesting relationships. And you know what we didn't have enough of is interesting relationships. And I really think that that's going to be the failure of the show. So if they can strengthen those, if you've decided to make elves especially fallible, lean into that. Elrond made a bad choice. Elrond betrayed Galadriel. And it wasn't until I watched the 3rd series did it actually land on me that he fucking stabbed her in the back and sent her on the ship and said to her face that everything's gonna be okay. Fuck you, Elrond.
Like, are they gonna go into that? Because now anyone should know that they will, but I don't know. Like, the fact that they didn't linger on a shot,
she forgave him,
and that's the thing. It's stupid. Like, and like that's how. You want to forgive them? Cool. But then at the very end, when he's got the scroll in his hand, implicating her of knowing who Halbrand is and her not telling him, her basically bringing him, like, enemy of all enemies into their sacred place. Like, she is a little bit at fault for that. Like, granted, he's the biggest, like, manipulator and deceiver of all time. That's literally his name. Sauron the Deceiver is what Aragorn calls him. And so it's like, linger on that shot of like this knowing look between them. It's like, does Elrond owe Galadriel one and not say anything? Because he kept Durin secret a little bit. So it's like, are they gonna go into that? Are they gonna go into these interpersonal relationships that bring us back? Every edit I see on TikTok for Lord of the Rings isn't Helm's Deep. It's not Legolas sliding a shield down a wall.
Totally.
It's, I would have followed you to the end, followed by the most beautiful display of masculinity of Aragorn. It's, would you like me to find you a box? And all the friendship growing moments between Legolas and Gimli. It's the hobbits. It's Frodo and Sam. It's Merry and Pippin. It's the relationships. Are there the most badass action moments? Yes, absolutely. That's what like the original YouTube was for. Is like, oh, Legolas takes down an Oliphant. I want to watch that real quick. Da-da-da. Let me go watch that. And that was all I defended in Battle of the Five Armies. Is it the dumbest fucking movie of all time? Yes. Do I love Legolas going full Mario Brothers, boing, 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 and double backflipping onto Bolg's back and stabbing him through the throat? Absolutely. So you can have, but like, it's because you built that, like, believability and trust with your audience. Be like, yeah, Legolas did do this in the original trilogy, so we're gonna have him go absolutely buck fucking wild in The Hobbit.
It's like what they do with Yoda when he's fighting Qui-Gon Jinn, right? It's like,
absolutely.
We've never seen him move like that, but
we've never seen him move, but we're gonna do it. And yeah, it's so great. And so it's just like, we are coming to these shows for the relationships. You watch Fallout because, like, oh, it's a cool property and stuff, but you stay there for like the friendships she makes along the way and what she does with like Walton Goggins and Maximus, the guy in the suit, where it's just like, yeah, like I'm interested in her and like how she's reacting to this world. So
they made Galadriel so immovable that we also didn't like her. Like how the elves felt about her. Do you know what I mean?
No, I've been saying it this whole time. It's like, who am I rooting for? I wasn't rooting for anybody in the show. We're like, yeah, I'll root for good versus evil, obviously. So I'm gonna root for Arondir. But that's probably like Durin and Elrond is like the only really one we got where we talked about it ad nauseum because it was just like this breath of fresh air and all these stilted British performances. Lord of the Rings, we're in Middle Earth. I will not display a single amount of emotion. And then you get the dwarves where they're just like drinking mead and breaking rocks and, oh, give me the meat. Like, yes, give me some life. And I compare it a lot to the Star Wars prequels where George was like, well, everyone likes, the royalty of Star Wars. And it's like, no, we liked Han Solo. We liked, hokey religions and lightsabers, whatever. And he just like, he takes like we get Alec Guinness, who's like, oh, I remember the Clone Wars. And then Harrison Ford comes in and is like, shut the hell up, old man. Get on my old ship. Like, that's what we're there for. And it's so good. So we need more of this world. We know the world. We know the characters. Why am I watching them? Why am I coming back to them specifically? Because I like elves, I like hobbits, I like dwarves, but why are we watching these dwarves, hobbits, and elves and men specifically?
And I think you just said it right. Because the Harfoots failed. They were not our lens into the world. But we love a Martin Freeman and experiencing the world through his perspective. Those movies don't do me anything if he's not in them, by the way.
Not at all.
They can't.
And the biggest flaw is that in Battle of the Five Armies, he's not. He literally becomes a side character, and that's the biggest failing of that movie. Is that it's like it's kind of teasing between, oh, is it Thorin's story? Is it Bilbo's? It's a little combination of both, and it's really fun. Now it just becomes Thorin's like battle story. And it's like, this is really boring,
right? And we don't relate to Galadriel. We just don't. We sort of relate to Bronwyn. We sort of relate to Arondir. I think Arondir's doing a great job. Heavy lifting. We relate the fuck out of Durin. We relate to that. And so, sure, tell us a story where all these stories collide and make Galadriel imperfect, but make her relatable. And they didn't. And so,
yeah.
Yeah.
We love an imperfect like protagonist. We don't want a perfect protagonist. That's boring. Like, we don't want a fully fulfilled character.
No.
Because their story's over.
Right.
Like, even, you know, I'm listening to a podcast about the Winter Soldier, the Captain America movie. It's like, that's literally the perfect example of like, Captain America is the best of us.
Right.
He's literally a superhuman person, but he is still learning. He is still like figuring out, oh, this isn't the 1940s and I'm not just punching Nazis. What's really going on with the government? Because we won the big war. So we're the good guys, right?
Yeah.
Like, we did everything right. I died for the world. And then he wakes up and he realizes, oh, not everything is as it seems. I can't blindly trust the government to always make the right decision. I need to start making my own decisions. And it's like, that's really good stuff. He can always like be on the side of like righteousness, but he can make wrong decisions. And that's fine. Galadriel can make wrong decisions, but why do I want her to make the right ones? Why am I like, no, Galadriel, you got to do this. Like, you can't be like so driven by revenge. Your brother wouldn't have wanted this. But I don't know that because I didn't fucking spend any time with her brother.
I think my one question I would ask the showrunners and press them on is, why actually are you telling us this story? Did you just want to make $1 million? Did you just want us to have a Lord of the Rings thing because you think we were going to show up? Or did you actually have a story to tell? Because right now, I don't know what story they want to tell. And maybe we'll find out tomorrow in the teaser trailer.
I'm really, really genuinely excited for the teaser trailer. Like, you know, we just talked about last week that there wasn't a single announcement for this season that we're supposedly getting by the end of the year, but we're finally getting one, and I am excited. I'm going to set, you know, whatever. These are and that's the thing, is that I don't have any story expectations.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't me being there's some toxic Star Wars fans like, well, Galadriel needs to do this. The rings need to do this.
Totally.
The dwarves need to get their rings here. The Balrogs shouldn't be awake right now. Now, I have questions of why the Balrogs are awake and how they're going to work around that.
Right.
But I'm trusting them. Like, we want character stuff. That's what we're concerned about, at least me. Where I know Jess just wants like TNA, like she just wants boobies and butts and big old flopping dongs.
Show me the flaw. Show me. Tell.
Why are you booing me? I'm right.
And your point being.
But just like, we both just want really good character stuff, and like, we're here every week. We love talking about this. We want to love talking about.
Yes.
We want to unabashedly, like, just praise this show.
Yeah.
As Jess would say, I want to glaze this show.
If I knew how to use the Gen Z terms correctly, then I would.
If
say
she knew how to use it, she'd say it.
I would say it right.
But yeah, like, I never want to watch anything bad. Even, like, remember, you know, I always say that, like, you know, you have to like preface things now because everyone loves everything. You know, I'm even like on TikTok where the new Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes movie came out, and everyone's like, oh, the Tim Burton movie's the best. Stop it. Stop it right now. Like, you could like it. I'm not saying you can't like it. Like whatever you want. It is not the best Planet of the Apes movie. You need to stop. But it is so funny is that, like, there are pockets of people that just unabashedly love things that you not even hate, just like dismiss. It's like, oh, this is a movie. But that's someone's favorite movie. And I want this to be my favorite series. I really do.
Yeah.
We are in the golden age of television right now. Maybe we've passed it a little bit, but you know, there's still some really, really good shows being made. We've got Fallout. Season 3 of The Bear is coming out. You know, House of the Dragon is coming out. Like, we have so much good stuff coming our way. And I want this to be in that conversation. I want this to be like, man, you know, like June is like, has The Boys season 4. Like, and I want this to be part of like, oh my gosh, in November or whenever this is coming out, Rings of Power is coming back. Did you see that trailer? Did you see that teaser?
Right.
We're so back, baby. Like, I want that conversation more than anyone. So I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be... I think they're going to right a lot of wrongs. I think there's no way they didn't... I don't need them to, like, listen to the fans and do what they want, but I need them to take some constructive criticism of the things that they missed.
Yeah, I really don't. I don't think they're gonna like back down on their inclusivity and normalization and making,
No,
you know what
never.
I mean? But I do think, like, yeah, you're so right, Ben, because our bread and butter and the kind of content creators we're not bashers. I'm not making a living by talking about how bad something is, and I don't want to either.
No.
So I'm with you. I actually do have hope. I'm choosing to believe that this series really just set us up, and now we're, going to be off a leash and it's going to be ready to go. Because I'll suspend disbelief and I'll overlook things like anybody, because I'm with you. I want to like it. We also want to hear from our audience too. What
Yes.
are you looking forward to? What aren't you looking forward to? We also want to send out a shout out to Arsenal Roy 2K, aka Jesse Gibbons, who's at the 9 Mortal Men's Rings tier on our Patreon.
Boom,
You know
boom,
what
boom,
I think?
boom, boom.
If we do find like the space to continue the series as we're waiting for season 2, I think we should do like a monthly hangout or something with our Patreon members. So if you want to show us how much you support this show, if you want it to stay on the air, if you like what we're doing, even a $2 a month donation goes a long way. Head over to patreon.com/podcast of the rings and show us how much we mean to you. That would really mean a lot to me. I appreciate it. And Ben, if they're listening on their preferred podcast player, what should they fucking do?
Give us some 5 stars, baby. 5 stars were given to the race of me and Jessica.
Yeah.
That was off the top of the dome right there,
Damn,
dog. Let's go.
Damn, that was fucking baller.
Who's the improv king now?
Oh,
Not me.
no.
I'm terrible at
No,
improv.
that was excellent, though. I think there's
Thank you.
nothing more that could be said. But don't forget, next week is our Q&A episode. I think after that we'll do, I don't know. I have thoughts about the Chasing Gollum movie, so I think I do want to talk about that.
If you guys want to, we're gonna have the teaser. So ask us about the teaser. Ask us about Gollum. Like, I'm down to do whatever next week, guys. And they don't have to be Middle Earth related. They can be pop culture related. Anything, because Lord knows we go on tangents on this podcast. So let's go on some tangents with some cues, baby.
That's exactly right. Oh, I did send a screenshot of someone who was nice enough to write a review, and I give that person the ick, and I thought I was sharing that I'm not necessarily proud that an element of Drunk Jessica is someone that steals something, though it is like a game I play, and I don't drink as often as I used to when Drunk Jessica would steal things, which is, a pair of scissors or whatever. But Drunk Jessica over the birthday weekend, this past weekend, did show up, and I stole a votive candle.
She's back. We're so back.
And until next time,
may Jessica pick up her popcorn from the movie theater again.
trash person. Trash person.